Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Draft Room. This is the NFL Draft Podcast of the Packernet Podcast Network. If you'd like to call in, please feel free to do so. The phone number here is 608-561-3243. Also, remember to check out NFLDraftGrades.com. You can build your own big boards, do your mock drafts, and if you got some friends, if you're fortunate enough to have friends, you can do a group mock draft. So I'm excited to have some people try that feature out and get some feedback on it. Today, we are doing safeties. This is the final defensive position. Over the last couple of weeks, we've gone through top 10-ish at every position. And today we do that. Tomorrow we'll look at some specialists. Hopefully there's 10 worth looking at. Should be a good amount of returners, I would assume. Then we do mock draft and on to something else. So, without further ado, why don't we go ahead and do that? We'll do what we've been doing. It actually works out quite well. We'll look at the top 9 prospects, 3 in each segment. That'll bring us out to 105 on the consensus board. After that, there's a little bit of a drop-off down to 126. So we're looking right around the top 100 prospects. Those will include Bud Clark out of TCU, Jalen Kilgore out of South Carolina, Genesis Smith out of Arizona, Zakee Wheatley out of Penn State, Kamari Ramsey out of USC, AJ Halsey out of LSU, Dylan Thenaman out of Oregon, Emmanuel McNeil Warren out of Toledo, and then the one sort of top-tier prospect, the guy that, similar to Jeremiah Love, you're in a situation where he's clearly a top 10, top 5 type of prospect in terms of his talent. However, there's questions of positional value. But Caleb Downs out of Ohio State is that top prospect. The only real lock first-round pick with Warren and Thenaman as kind of early second, possibly getting into that first-round conversation. All right. Without further ado, let's get started with Mr. Bud Clark. So, first of all, 6 years at TCU. That in and of itself is a positive and a negative. In a world where everyone transfers, Clark stayed at TCU for 6 years, came back for a 6th season when he could have declared. That decision speaks to his character, his love of the program, and the fact that Sonny Dykes reportedly used revenue sharing as part of convincing him to return. The negative, obviously, is going to be the age. He is listed at 24 years old. I don't know when he turns 25 or if he just turned 24 or exactly what, but, that's not going to be great. Also, he just broke out in 2024. It does show 2 years, so you got some consistency. It's not just a 1-year thing that might seem kind of fluky, but, you figure at 23 being sort of his breakout age. Prior to that, really not much. In fact, he wasn't really full-time starting until 2024 when he had his massive breakout. There also was a slight regression from 2024 to 2025. So there's a couple things just by peeking at the PFF that you kind of look at and go, well, yeah, maybe. Going through that quickly, in 2020, he played 13 snaps, had a grade in the 50s. 2021, he played 124 snaps with a 46 grade. Then he jumps up to 500 snaps, which is, a little more than 50% of what a safety usually plays. Those guys don't come off the field. Had a 71 grade, which is great. Then in 2023, he played another 510 snaps, 56 grade, so he went right back down. 2024, he plays 837 snaps, 90 PFF grade. 2025, 725 snaps, 80 PFF grade. So the last 2 years, obviously, were the real solid years. You could say over the last 4 with a downturn in 2023 if you wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt. But that's kind of a quick peek at that. The coverage and run defense track together. So in 2020, when he had a 70 grade, it was a 70 in both run defense and coverage. When he downturned into the 50s, he had a 50 in both run defense and coverage. The only kind of anomaly, I guess, would be 2024. He had a 75 run defense grade, 90 coverage. But otherwise, they're consistent together, which is, I guess, weird. But I would say he's just as good at both. It's just a consistency issue. One of the most productive and experienced safeties in the entire 2026 class, played 61 games over 6 seasons, a true lifer who grew from special teams contributor as a true freshman into a 3-time All-Big 12 performer, 3-time team captain. Breakout came during TCU's magical 2022 college football playoff run when his pick six against Michigan in the Fiesta Bowl semifinal became one of the most iconic plays in program history. That was against JJ McCarthy, by the way. There's a lot of talk about that play. If you go watch Bud Clark highlights, you're going to see that play over and over and over again. Clark finished his career tied for 4th all-time in interceptions at TCU with 15. He allowed, by the way, 11 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, 20 pass breakups in his 6 seasons and 1,468 coverage snaps. He's a free safety by trade who played multiple roles in TCU's defense, lining up deep in the box and in the slot. He was frequently asked to execute post-snap coverage rotations to disguise plays. Best way to describe Clark, he's a chess player playing a contact sport, reads quarterbacks' eyes, baits throws, makes plays on the football. Senior Bowl week in Mobile was outstanding. He was arguably the most consistent performer on the defensive side, winning reps in both one-on-ones and team drills, including an interception against NC State tight end Justin Jolly. Todd McShay publicly noted his dominant week. That performance vaulted him into the top 5 conversation at safety in this class. I just want to quickly take a peek at that because I did have a couple notes in his draft profile here, so I'm going to read those really quickly. So they got the winners and losers article. It says, Bud Clark, TCU. The argument could be made that the safeties look better than the cornerbacks over the past 2 weeks, and no player at the position made the impression Clark did during the Senior Bowl practices. He was terrific in coverage and made several interceptions during the final 2 days of practice, showing excellent range in center field. The way Clark communicated with players in the secondary and led the unit was very impressive. There's another article writing about Bud Clark. Said Clark was the star of the secondary Friday, picking off 2 passes, including 1 in full team drills. His ability to quickly get to the sideline and help cornerbacks was impressive, as was the way he tracked the passes in the air, then made his move to the throw. Clark's leadership skills equally stood out, and the way he communicated with teammates and made calls in the defensive backfield really impressed scouts. By the way, he is listed at 6'2", 190. I've always said 6'1", 200 pounds, 205-ish is safety. It's shocking how, there's usually wide ranges for a lot of positions. For safeties, it's always like 6'1", 200, right in there. You'll see some differences, but that is like the safety prototype. So 6'2", 190 being a little bit taller and, 10 pounds, 15 pounds lighter, he is seen as kind of a thin-framed sort of a safety. As far as injuries, Clark dealt with early career injuries that limited his availability. He was sidelined on the first 3 games of the 2022 season before returning to start the final 8 games and explode during the CFP run. In 2021, he appeared in only 3 games, recording just 10 tackles, suggesting he was dealing with an injury that season as well. In November 2025, he missed the Houston game with an undisclosed injury and then missed the regular season finale against Cincinnati. He did return for the Alamo Bowl. The late 2025 injury doesn't appear to be a long-term concern, but the early career durability issues are worth monitoring. Let's see. Only other minor highlight here, he opened the 2025 season with a pick six against Bill Belichick's UNC debut, so it's a little funny. Pro comp Jair Brown, current 49ers safety, I believe current, out of Penn State. Another comp, Jordan Whitehead, kind of an undersized guy, made his living on instincts and whatnot. Then we got Mr. Jalen Kilgore. He is 6'1", 211 pounds, graded at about a 70 for 3 years. All 3 years he was at South Carolina. Primarily run defense has been his highest grades, 77, 75, 81. Coverage grades have been 68, 67, and 65, so not bad in any one area, but again, graded out a little better in run defense than coverage. He's one of the things about him is going to be what is his position. So he's probably going to be another one of those guys that certain teams are going to love him, others maybe it's not a great fit. His snap counts, 157 snaps in the box. That would be sort of his safety area. Free safety only 9. So in the box safety 157, slot 497. So he's listed as a safety. A lot of people obviously view him as a safety, but there's kind of a tweener question. Is he a safety? Is he a slot? he a linebacker? Whatever. So again, it's gonna be a fit kind of a thing. Does he? Some people are gonna think he's a great fit for our defense. Others, it just doesn't make sense. One of the more physically gifted guys and versatile defensive backs in the 2026 class. So he's one of those guys that I think is going to have a great combine. That's probably going to skyrocket where he's at on some of these boards and where he gets drafted. Not actually drafted, but in mock drafts and whatnot. Bleacher Report's scouting department said it best he was built in a lab and explicitly designed to be an NFL defensive back. At 6'1", 211, 33.25-inch arms, 4.48 40 state championship level explosiveness. He had a 23-foot 7-inch long jump in high school. He has the prototype frame and athleticism that NFL teams covet in the modern hybrid safety nickel role. He was thrust into the starting role as a true freshman in 2023 when Nick Emmanuel Warren went down with an injury in the season opener against North Carolina. So that is another one of the positives here is he was a starter. I mean, a lot of times people will come in as a freshman. They'll play a couple snaps or whatever. He was a full-time starter as a freshman. Responded with 12 tackles in that game, never gave the job back. He finished his freshman year with 76 tackles, second on the team, earning freshman All-American, freshman All-SEC honors. That's absurdly rare for a true freshman defensive back in the SEC. 2024 was his breakout, 5 interceptions to tie the SEC lead, 4th nationally, game-sealing picks against both Old Dominion and Missouri, and all-SEC recognition. His 2025 season saw him transition into a true leadership role. He was voted a permanent team captain by teammates and named co-MVP of the defense along Brian Thomas Jr. His ball production dipped slightly, 2 interceptions, but his coverage numbers actually improved, allowing just a 52% catch rate. South Carolina primarily deployed him as a spur, which is a hybrid safety linebacker nickel position. Per PFF, we already went through his snap counts and whatnot. By the way, when I said box, I mean apparently that's safety and linebacker. Injuries remarkably durable for 3-year college. Appeared in 36 of 37 possible games over 3 seasons with 33 starts. No real red flags for Kilgore, team captain, 3-year starter, graduated in 3 years with his degree, no character off the field concerns. Older brother Gerald is also on the South Carolina football roster. His commitment ceremony was memorable. Who cares? He has a massive range as far as his projection because of his scheme dependency. He could go very early. He's currently at consensus 100. There's some talk about him possibly being a second-round prospect for teams that use sort of a star hybrid safety nickel position. As a floor, you could be looking at rounds 4 or 5 that teams view him more so as a tweener. Pro comp, Kyle Duggar, comp that keeps coming up. Both physical, versatile safeties with length and explosiveness who project as hybrid defenders capable of playing in the box, in the slot, or deep. As you can imagine, just 3 years and starting as a true freshman, he is young. He is only 21 years old, born January 27th, 2005. So he will be 21 on draft day. It's also worth noting he actually was a wide receiver converted to the defense, so that does matter when you're considered kind of a ball hawk. It probably adds to the belief that this is a legit thing, that he's, got good hands. All right, last prospect on this side of the break is Genesis Smith, safety out of Arizona. If you're looking for a true center fielder, free safety, roaming around the backfield, Genesis Smith is seen as one of the most pure center field safeties in the class. Could almost call him a throwback, considering how much everybody's a hybrid these days. Let's see, 3-star recruit. Wasn't supposed to be a star this fast as a true freshman 2023. Played all 13 games. His signature moment came in the 2023 Alamo Bowl against Oklahoma, where he grabbed a pivotal interception in Arizona's 6-turnover masterpiece, a 38-24 win that capped a historic 10-win season, only the 4th in program history. For the record, 3 years at Arizona, he's listed at 6'2", 204. That first year, he only played 200-some-odd snaps, 62 grade, 44 run defense, but 71 coverage. So he was very good as a coverage safety, makes sense considering what he is, right out of the gate. Everything changed in 2024 when starting safety gunner Maldonado went down with a season-ending injury. Smith was thrust into the starting lineup and absolutely seized it. He played 3 different positions: free safety, strong safety, and nickel. Led the team with 3 interceptions while posting 63 tackles, 9 pass defense, 2 forced fumbles. He earned Big 12 Co-Defensive Player of the Week honors after a 7-tackle, 1-interception performance against Houston. In that year, 72 grade, 73 run defense, 72 coverage. After the 2024 season, Smith briefly entered the transfer portal, took an official visit to Washington to potentially reunite with former Arizona head coach Jedd Fisch, but he and fellow DBs Traden Stukes and Dalton Johnson all returned to Tucson for Brent Brennan's second season, a decision that paid off enormously. So this is kind of talked about as well. Could there be... Again, I don't know how much this portal stuff matters. I'm guessing teams don't care anymore because it's so normal, but if you're looking for a nitpicky thing as far as him, is the fact that he flirted with the portal and then decided to go back to Arizona. But it was kind of a weird thing where all the DBs, or this group of DBs that are kind of like a unit, all entered the portal together and then all decided to return together. So whatever that's about. But decision paid off. Arizona went 9-3 in 2025, finished 4th nationally in pass defense, 155.9 yards allowed per game, led the nation in opposing QBR, 95.16, quarterback rating, and intercepted 19 passes as a team for the FBS best, plus 16 turnover margin. Off the field, he is described as one of the best people in the draft class. Like, if you're looking for a high character guy, he's a name that's going to come up probably first. He's a standout human being. He founded Christmas Cats, a holiday gift-giving campaign for families in Tucson and Phoenix, and hosted a youth football camp at Doolin Middle School. He was named to the All-State AFCA Good Works team and was a semifinalist for the Werfel Trophy, which is excellence in community service, academics, and performance. Arizona defensive coordinator Danny Gonzalez called him one of the greatest human beings I've ever been around, with servant leadership, and said everything he does is elite. He also has no notable injury stuff. He's a young guy. He also broke out in 2025 if we look at PFF, 81. So his overall grades went 62, 72, 81. Call it 2 just for the sake of continuity. His coverage grades went from 71.4 to 71.7 to 88.5. So the run defense tackling stuff is not going to be seen as a highlight, but again, he's a center fielder. He is a, sideline to sideline kind of guy. The biggest question for him is going to be at the combine, because he's not an elite athlete, and everybody kind of knows that, but it's... Sorry, had kids barge in saying we need to go to Florida randomly. He's not an elite athlete. The question, though, is going to come down to, at the combine, is he's going to put up numbers that demonstrate he can be a dominant middle field safety? Or is he going to show numbers that cause concern in that area? So there's going to be a pass-fail on him at the combine, so a lot of people are going to be watching that to see what kind of numbers he ends up putting up. He's seen as anywhere from a 2nd to a 4th round prospect. Again, the combine may impact that a little bit. A decent comp, probably a solid comp, would be Jesse Bates of the Falcons. Rangy, intelligent, high floor, free safety type. So, alrighty, that's it for Genesis Smith. Why don't we take a break? We'll be right back. All right, next up we've got Zakee Wheatley, safety out of Penn State, 6'2", 200 pounds, 5 years at Penn State. Got his official start in 2024, which was also kind of when he broke out, although 2025 was even better. In 2024, he had a 79 grade, 88 run defense, 71 coverage. 2025, it was an 86 overall, 83 run defense, 84 coverage. Some of his career numbers, 1,200 snaps in coverage. He had 600 yards given up, 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 5 pass breakups, 92 NFL passer rating when targeted. He is another wide receiver converted to safety. Obviously, coming from DB, there's long line of DBs that have come out of there, so there's that whole pipeline as well. He was a 4-star recruit out of Archbishop Spalding High School in Severn, Maryland. He chose Penn State over Wisconsin, Michigan State, Maryland, Northwestern, Pitt, Virginia, Vanderbilt, and Boston College among 22-plus total offers. He is the definition of a late-blooming, patience-rewarding prospect. Spent 4 years at Penn State waiting for his moment. Redshirting as a true freshman 2021, playing sparingly as a rotational piece in 22 and 23 before injury to starter KJ Winston Jr. early in 2024 season thrust him into the lineup permanently. What happened next is one of the best developmental arcs in college football. Wheatley responded to his opportunity with a 96-tackle, 3-interception breakout in 2024 that culminated in being named Fiesta Bowl Defensive MVP after recording an interception and fumble recovery in Penn State's 31-14 demolition of Boise State in the CFP quarterfinals. He became just the 5th Penn State player ever to record 15-plus tackles in a bowl game when he hammered Notre Dame 16 times in the Orange Bowl semifinal loss. He earned all Big Ten honorable mention from the media. After that breakout, Wheatley had every reason to declare for the 2025 draft and enter the transfer portal. He did neither. He said, "I had a chance to leave and hop in the portal. We all know how crazy the portal is," Wheatley told Penn Live. "But I never did that. I had my loyalty to Penn State, and I wouldn't go back and change that for anything." Despite the disappointing 2025 season, Wheatley was one of the few constants. Again, the grades and stats and all that we already looked at. He capped the college career with a standout Senior Bowl performance, being named the National Team Safety of the Week by scouts and fellow participants alike. He measured in at 6'2" 3/4", bigger than the listed 6'2", confirming the length that shows up on tape. He confirmed he will attend the NFL Combine. He is a business major who aspires to earn an MBA and become a top-level executive. He's a frequent volunteer at Happy Helpers. He's one of 7 siblings, 4 brothers and 2 sisters. His full name is Zaki Kai Wheatley. His age at the draft is 23, which is not young. We've seen older. It's not going to work in his favor, that's for sure. He has no significant injury history, no real red flags. Again, mostly positive stuff for him and his character. Most likely going to be a round 2 to round 3 type of a prospect. Combine testing is going to be critical. PFF noted his blazing speed, and NFL Draft Buzz listed his projected 40-yard dash at 4.4. If he runs in the low 4.4s at almost 6'3", he could separate from the pack and be in the 2-3 round range. Penn State's strength and conditioning program is elite, so he should test well. Primary comp for him is Tyler Nubin for the New York Giants, 6'2", 197 safety from Minnesota, drafted in the 2nd round. Like Wheatley, Nubin was a rangy, instinctive free safety who won with processing speed, ball skills, and sideline-to-sideline range rather than elite physicality. Both players, similar measurements, similar strengths, and similar weaknesses, like inconsistent physicality and slender build. Nubin posted 8 career interceptions at Minnesota. Wheatley had 6 at Penn State. The comparison is almost eerie. Only other note is the Eagles connection. That's kind of a popular thought, is that he's going to end up with the Eagles. He is a local kid, kind of. Wheatley grew up in Crofton, Maryland, about 2 hours from Philadelphia. The Eagles need safety help, potentially losing Reed Blankenship in free agency, and showed direct interest at the Senior Bowl. If Philly drafts him in rounds 2 and 3, it's a great local angle. Any team running a single high scheme should have him circled. All right, Kamari Ramsey, USC Trojans, listed at 6'205". Another guy PFF likes a lot. Year 1, he didn't play a ton at UCLA. 2 years at UCLA, 2 at USC. The next year at UCLA has a great year, about an 80 PFF grade, 80 run defense, 80 tackling, 70 pass rush, 78 coverage. Transfers to USC, 77 grade, 88 coverage. The next year, 73 and 77 coverage. That is the PFF overview. Kamari Ramsey's story is inextricable from one name, D'Anton Lynn. I didn't have to Google inextricable or anything, but for those of you that don't know, that means impossible to untangle from. When Lynn was the defensive coordinator at UCLA in 2023, Ramsey broke out as a redshirt freshman, starting all 11 games, allowing just 11 catches on 23 targets per PFF. Elite coverage efficiency for any defensive back, let alone a first-year starter. When Lynn left UCLA for the same position at rival USC after the 2023 season, Ramsey followed him through the transfer portal almost immediately. He chose USC over Ohio State and Washington specifically because of, as a source told the Southern California news group, his respect for Lynn and his belief that Lynn will develop him to ultimately rise to the NFL. That bet paid off in 2024. Ramsey became the heartbeat of USC's revamped secondary, posting 60 tackles, 5.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 5 pass defenses, 1 interception, and 2 forced fumbles across 11 starts. His standout 9-tackle performance against LSU earned him Lot Impact Player of the Week honors, and a 10-tackle effort versus Penn State, including matchups with Tyler Warren, demonstrated his ability to rise in marquee Big Ten matchups. He earned all Big Ten honorable mention. After that season, Ramsey had a clear second-round tape. Most expected him to declare for the 2025 NFL Draft. He did not. He returned to USC for 2025, hoping to boost his stock and help the Trojans contend for a playoff spot. The return did not go as planned. Injuries to USC's nickel defender, Prophet Brown and Alex Graham, forced Ramsey into the nickel spot for roughly half the starts, moving him away from the deep safety role where he'd excelled. Lincoln Riley praised his unselfishness, quote, "He's wearing some different hats for us right now. You talk about a guy just doing what's best for the team. It's pretty cool to see." But the position change muddied his tape. Then on November 15th, Ramsey suffered a right knee injury in USC's 26-21 win over Iowa. He missed the rest of the season, including games against Oregon, UCLA, and the bowl game. He was ranked number 4 overall prospect at the Senior Bowl by PFSN, and the Senior Bowl represented his first live action in over 2 months. ESPN's Matt Miller projected him to the Chiefs at number 40 overall in a 2-round mock. Bleacher Report gave him a 7.7 grade. PFSN has him high as number 26 overall, the number 2 safety behind only Caleb Downs on their board. So, unlike a few of the other guys, injury history has been a little bit of an issue. 2023, he left the Arizona game with an injury, missed the Arizona State game. 2024 at USC, left the Maryland game with an injury, missed the Rutgers and Washington games. Then 2025, suffered a right knee injury in the first half, missed Oregon, UCLA in the bowl game, and again, missed the remainder of that season. None of them appear to be catastrophic. No reports of surgeries like ACL, MCL tears, anything like that, at least nothing public. But the pattern of missing 2 to 3 games a season due to lower body injuries is going to be concerning for a player of his size. NFL medical evaluations at the Combine will be critical. The production dip at the second half, in 2025 is probably, it honestly could end up being a positive for him. I think the fact that he's still going to be seen as, in fact, it's kind of funny if you look at his grades, it's still, if you were to parse out the games where he primarily played safety, those were his best games. Some of his worst games, most of his worst games were in the slot, but it also shows versatility. Number one, that he can do it. He's a team player, all that stuff. I don't think anyone's going to ding him as a safety because he played slightly worse when he was being a slot corner. His range is late round 1 through round 3. Most likely landing spot is round 2. Comp, Buda Baker. Little smaller, but ultra-instinctive safety who wins with processing speed, trigger, and aggressive play rather than elite size and length. Both players at their best reading quarterbacks' eyes and zone and triggering to the ball. Both have questions about their size, holding up against bigger offensive players. Baker went in the second round in 2017, has been a multi-time Pro Bowler. Ramsey has a similar floor as an instinctive zone safety who needs the right scheme to maximize him. He's also described as playing with a boulder on his shoulder. Yahoo described his mentality as being aggressive, chippy, and unafraid of contact, hits with bad intentions. In a safety class full of guys who got flagged for inconsistent physicality, Ramsey stands out for his willingness to bring the violence, even if his 200-pound frame limits his effectiveness in that aggression at times. Mentioned kind of his zone, the need for him to be in more of a zone defense. That is kind of a flag, but again, it depends on the style of defense that you're playing because he is considered one of the better zone safeties in the class. So if that's primarily what you're going to use him as, then you probably really like him. Next up, at consensus number 55, we've got AJ Halsey out of LSU. 6 foot 222, big frickin' guy. And I'll tell you what, you talk about PFF love, this guy has dominated at 3 different schools in pretty much every conceivable way. So in 2022, he was at New Mexico, 86th grade, 78 run defense, 85 tackling, and an 86 coverage grade. Just freaking dominant across the board. Then he goes to Houston. Has an okay year, his first year at Houston, 70 overall. The run defense and tackling stand out, both in the mid-80s, but the coverage took a big hit down at 58. But year 2 at Houston, he's right back. 81 overall, 74 run defense, 67 tackling, 86 coverage. So then he transfers again, this time to a bigger program, LSU, and he continues to be a very, very good safety. 87 overall, 76 run defense, 67 tackling, and 89 coverage. He had given up 843 yards on his 1,500 coverage snaps, 9 touchdowns given up, 10 interceptions, 15 pass breakups, 81.1 passer rating when targeted, just 5 penalties across 4 seasons. AJ Halsey is the anti-prototype in the modern safety prospect. Everybody else being, 6'2", 180, and rangy. He's 5'11", 222, thick, and, he lacks the range, but brings the frickin' thump, you know what I mean? He's a short, thick, old-school enforcer at 5'11 and a quarter, 222. Looks like a linebacker playing safety. Bleacher Report described it perfectly. He looks like a linebacker playing safety, but his zone instincts and impressive downhill click and close speed give him a unique skill set at the top of defenses. What Halsey lacks in length and deep field range, he makes up for with absurd nose for the football, 10 career interceptions across 4 seasons at 3 different programs and 3 different conferences under 3 different coaching staffs and different schemes. That's not scheme production, that's instinct. That's an innate ability to read quarterbacks and attack the ball that translates regardless of system. NFL Spin Zone said his evaluation centers on impact and intimidation. The 2025 LSU tape is his calling card for NFL scouts. He went from the Big 12 to the SEC, a significant jump in offensive quality, and didn't miss a beat. 88 tackles, 3 picks, 4 pass deflections, first-team All-SEC. He did it against Clemson after missing the first half due to suspension, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Alabama, and Oklahoma. An LSU source told CBS Sports early in the offseason Halsey has really stabilized the safety group. And when PFSN noted that the team's defense around him struggled, Halsey was consistently the bright spot. His zone coverage instincts are genuinely special. Bleacher Report called his prowess as a zone defender special to witness, with trust to pass off, track route concept development, and instincts to trigger on throws with anticipation. Steelers Depot compared him to Minkah Fitzpatrick in terms of how he reads the offense and makes plays on the ball. His best fit is in zone-heavy scheme, cover 2, cover 3 robber, where his processing speed and trigger can be maximized. But the limitations are real and role-defining. He's not a center field free safety. His hips are stiff when asked to flip and run with athletic receivers. His recovery speed when beaten deep is limited. His tracking technique, despite being a willing hitter, needs refinement. NFL Spin Zone's evaluation was blunt. Best utilized in split safety looks as a box defender or as a big nickel option. Asking him to play extensively in space or as a primary deep safety would minimize his strength. The BYU fight, more on that later, is the one genuine red flag on an otherwise clean profile. It resulted in a half-game suspension to start the LSU career and created a minor drama heading into the Clemson opener, but it appears to be an isolated incident, a comprehensive player who lost his cool, competitive player who lost his cool in a late-game scuffle rather than a character pattern. So that incident, November 30th, 2024, in the fourth quarter of Houston's 30-18 loss to BYU, a scuffle broke out in the end zone after a Jake Retzloff touchdown run. BYU's Darius Lassiter shoved Halsey from behind, and Halsey immediately turned around and started swinging. Both players were ejected. Multiple other players from both teams were involved in shoving and throwing punches. Here's where it gets messy. The game official initially announced the ejection as unsportsmanlike conduct, which doesn't always carry a suspension. But the Big 12 later reclassified it as fighting, which mandates a first-half suspension in the next game. Because it happened in Halsey's final game at Houston, the suspension carried over to his first game at LSU, the season opener at number 4, Clemson. As for injuries, it's relatively clean. He battled a shoulder injury throughout the season opener, per Steelers Depot in 2025, played through it, still put up some great numbers and whatnot. No other significant injuries were reported. As far as his projection, his draft range is tighter than some other prospects in the class. The consensus is remarkably unified. PFSN has him at 37. Bleacher Report, they gave him a 7.4 grade for whatever that means. Tankathon 51. Walter, second to third round, number 3 safety. Steelers Depot 8.8. Draft Buzz 85.2 grade. 49ers Noise says happily take him in the second round. Consensus is pretty much across the board. Second round, a hard floor of third round. Most likely goes somewhere between picks 40 and 65. NFL comp, not super surprising. It's kind of, one of those lofty comps, but Derwin James for the Chargers, sort of Derwin's James light. James is bigger, more explosive, but the same archetype, box safety hybrid who dominates in the intermediate level with physicality, instincts, and ball skills. If Derwin James is the premium version, Halsey is the valuable version that gives you 75% of the impact at a fraction of the draft cost. That's a fair way to put it, I think. His nickname apparently is Mr. Give Me That. The nickname that writes itself. His coaches at Fort Bend Marshall gave him the nickname because of his interception skills, 12 picks as a high school senior. 3 pick sixes, 10 career college interceptions across 3 programs. Mr. Gimme That. That's funny. His hero, by the way, none other than Aaron Rodgers. Per Steelers Depot, Halsey's sports hero is Aaron Rodgers. Here's the thing I'll say about safeties, at least from a Packers perspective. I got to mention the Packers at least once on this. It seems unlikely because it's like, we got 2 guys that are really solid and probably a few behind them that we don't know, but probably are cool. There's a lot of talk about our new defensive coordinator liking to use multiple safeties, like 3 safeties on the field at the same time. I don't know if we're going to do that. It's going to depend on how he decides to employ the players that we have. But it is interesting to think, especially a guy like this, when you're talking about kind of this big, beefy linebacker safety hybrid. If you got Xavier McKinney, who's your middle field guy, your deep center guy, Halsey could easily be that third kind of hybrid linebacker safety type of guy if he so chose to do that. Now, that would end up being our first pick, which would tick a lot of people off, but it's something to potentially keep an open mind to. It's also worth noting he was labeled as the heartbeat of basically every team he's been on. Houston called him the heartbeat of their defense. LSU called him the heartbeat of their defense. An LSU source told CBS Sports Halsey has really stabilized the safety group. When a player is described as the heartbeat at every stop, that's not coach speak. That's genuine leadership traits that teams covet. All right, let's take our final break. We've got the big dogs. Pretty big jump, by the way, too. So, again, Halsey is at 55, so kind of mid-second round pick. Then we have Dylan Thenaman, who is a safety out of Oregon at 39. So we're talking early second, late first kind of an area. Same goes for Emmanuel McNeil Warren at 34, and then you get the massive jump up to Caleb Downs. So we'll take a break. We'll be right back. So I had to reprimand AI. I know some people are very anti-AI, but there's no way to get this amount of work done by myself, especially with 3 podcasts. And I also, for the record, am investing in, that is to say, spending a decent chunk of change on having the more advanced stuff. I picked basically the best one. I use all of them, and I have them kind of going through. And there's some of them that just annoy me. It's like, you keep getting this data wrong. You keep getting the freaking data wrong. The bottom line is Claude is the best one. It just is. I know Gemini is very popular, whatever. Claude's the best. When you use Claude, they have a new 4.6 and an extended version, and they have a deep research. So you use all of that, and it's like, holy crap, it gets a lot of stuff very, very right, and it does a great job. But once in a while, it's going to kind of mess some stuff up. One of the things, I didn't even bother to bring it up, but it talks about how he would fit with Jeff Hafley, and I'm like, come on now, let's freaking wake up a little bit. Anywho, I just want to mention this because I scolded it for that, and it says, if anything, the Gannon hire might actually make Halsey an even better scheme fit. His elite zone processing and split field alignments is tailor-made for quarters coverage, a Ramsey's zone coverage excellence translated well to. The pure center field types like Smith might be slightly less ideal for Gannon's base scheme. It talks a little bit about Gannon and the kind of safeties he's looking for. It says Gannon's quarter-based scheme uses safeties differently than Hafley's. In Philly, Gannon ran a lot of split safety looks, cover 4 quarters, which actually favors safeties who can play half-field responsibility, read route combinations in their zone, and come down to support the run from depth. That's less pure center field safety and more versatile half-field processor. Just throwing it out there. Okay. Dylan Thenaman. I always have to pause and make sure I'm getting all the N's and M's in there. Thenaman. Listed at 6 foot 205, another PFF darling. 2 years at Purdue starting in 2023. His first year he started 814 snaps, 90 PFF grade, 90 run defense, 76 tackling, 80 pass rush, 84 coverage. It's about as dominant across the board as you can get. There was a dip in 2024. We'll investigate that. He transfers to Oregon and, again, is elite, even more so than his first year at Purdue. 91 overall, 76 run defense, 87 tackling, 81 pass rush, 91 coverage. He played 1,259 total coverage snaps in his 3 years. In that time, gave up 494 yards, 6 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 11 pass breakups, 76.1 passer rating when targeted. Take a quick look at his snap counts here while AI is still sorting crap out. Free safety, 247 snaps. In the box, 434, 118 from the slot. Again, it's kind of iffy because in the box, usually for a safety, that just means safety. As we learned, occasionally that actually means linebacker, but it's just kind of where he's lined up. So if we add the two safety ones together, you're looking at 700 snaps at safety, 118 in the slot. But young guy, 21 years old. He is a Hoosier through and through. His story is one of the best family legacies in recent college football history. He attended Westfield High School in Westfield, Indiana. 3-star recruit, won the 2022 Indiana Football Coaches Association Mr. Football Award at defensive back, the state's highest individual honor at the position. 3-time first-team All-Conference and academic All-State honoree, a team captain, and led Westfield to back-to-back Class 6A state championship runner-up finishes. Both of Dylan's older brothers, Jacob and Brennan, played safety at Purdue as walk-ons during the Jeff Brom era. Jacob became a team captain as a senior in 2018. Dylan grew up going to Purdue games, watching his brothers play, and when his time came, he chose the Boilermakers over Indiana, Minnesota, and Northwestern, but unlike his brothers, he had a scholarship. Dylan Thenaman might be the most complete safety prospect in the class, not named Caleb Downs, and depending on your evaluation criteria, he might be the safest pick of the entire group. The numbers are staggering across 3 seasons, 306-plus career tackles, 8 interceptions, 14 pass deflections, 10 tackles for a loss, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 39 games as a 3-year starter. PFF's number 1 graded safety in the NCAA in 2025 with a 91 grade. PFF's highest graded safety nationally as a true freshman in 2023 with an 89.5 and has earned all conference honors in all 3 seasons. He's the only safety in the class who's won a legitimate All-American as both freshman and junior. His career trajectory is unusual and compelling. 2023 at Purdue, walked into the starting lineup immediately and looked like a 5-year starter from day one. Became the first defender in Big Ten history to win a conference weekly award 5 times in a single season. 6 interceptions, tied second nationally among all FBS players, set a Purdue freshman record. Big Ten Freshman of the Year, 3rd-team All-American, PFF grade of 89.5. In 2024 as a sophomore, the interceptions dried up, but the overall production stayed elite. The problem was Purdue cratered to a 1-11 team. He was a legitimate All-American caliber player on one of the worst teams in the FBS. That dismal record pushed him into the transfer portal. In 2025, Dan Lanning pounced. The move to Eugene was transformative, playing on a legitimate championship contender for the first time. Thenaman earned first-team All-Big Ten and All-American honors, posted a 91 PFF grade, which is number 1 nationally, and made the play of Oregon season, an overtime interception of Drew Allar at Beaver Stadium that sealed a victory over number 3 Penn State. He played all 15 games as Oregon reached the college football playoff semifinals at the Peach Bowl. The Oregon tape is what separates Thenaman from the rest of the safety class, excluding Downs. At Purdue, you could always wonder, is this guy producing because the Boilermakers are terrible and every opponent is throwing on them? At Oregon, that question was answered definitively. He was the number 1 graded safety in college football on a team that went to the CFP semifinal. He did it against Penn State in a hostile overtime environment. He did it against Indiana. He did it in the CFP against Texas Tech. This is a big game, big moment player. He also showed he was much more versatile. At Purdue, he was almost exclusively a deep safety. At Oregon, Dan Lanning deployed him in split safety looks, robber box, and even playing off the edge. Versatility demonstrated at the highest level of competition is exactly what NFL teams are looking for in the modern game. Dan Lanning said of Thenaman, he's infatuated with the extra work. There's probably not a day that goes by he's not in the weight room getting bonus work, doing extra rehab, getting extra film. His intelligence, all those things are really picking up, establishing some standards for the DB group. Ryan Walters, his coach at Purdue, put it even more bluntly. It's like he was created in a lab somewhere. You try to find things in his game, his personality, things in his life where you're like, oh, he needs to pick it up in this area. We get the academic grade report. His lowest grade right now is 99. His 5:30 a.m. arrival at Oregon's facility became a running joke among teammates. His injury history is clean. There are no red flags, no off the field, no character, no injuries. Academic All Big Ten. Again, lowest grade was a 99. Team captain at Purdue set the standard at Oregon. Transferred for a legitimate competitive reason. He's a general management major. And as far as his projection, he is currently sitting in the second round, but he has very fast rising stock right now. And the combine could possibly push him into legitimate round one conversation. Daniel Jeremiah actually put him, I don't know exactly the date on this, but he picked him to go to the Chicago Bears, number 25 overall. Matt Miller projected him to go to Kansas City at 30. Bleacher Report had him going 32 to the Seahawks. So, I mean, there's a lot of other mocks out there. You know, Athletic had him going second round to the Bears. But the point is, the possibility of him going in the first round is very, very real. All right, next up, and right on the bubble there at Consensus 34 is Emmanuel McNeil Warren, safety out of Toledo. Another guy with just elite grades. 4 years at Toledo. Don't have a verified age, but you're thinking 22, 23-ish, somewhere in there. Didn't start really his first year, played 37 snaps only, graded out terribly, but it's 37 snaps. And then he gets into the thick of it in his second year in 2023. 87 grade, 84 in 2024, and then 92 in 2025. His run defense, this is kind of where he stands out. It's interesting because his coverage actually got better. The run defense tackling kind of got worse, which is interesting. It's something to kind of consider, I suppose, especially the tackling is kind of a question. But I think flying under the radar is the fact that his coverage got better, whether that was a different usage, a different, him trying to improve that, maybe hurt in other areas. I don't know. Doesn't matter. The bottom line is he is an absolute throwback enforcer type of safety, and his run defense tackling is a calling card, but his coverage grades are phenomenal. Anywho, run defense grade started in his first year as a starter, 95, then 79, then 83. Tackling is where it took a big dip, 88, then 82, then 62. If we actually look at his missed tackle rate, it went from 7% to 8.7% to 15.5. He had 13 missed tackles, 11 in his previous 2 years combined. So that's one of those watch the tape things to try to get a better idea of what was going on there. The coverage, though, is a really big story. 73, then 84, then 92. He played 996 total coverage snaps, gave up 403 yards, 3 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 11 pass breakups. He also forced 11 fumbles. So that was another big storyline. Is not only is he a freaking hunter in the deep field, but he goes after the ball. He's also a converted wide receiver like a lot of these guys. So he's pretty good at hunting down that ball. Listed at between 6'2 and 6'3 and 3/8. The measurements vary. He was actually invited to the Senior Bowl and turned it down. Kind of last minute. It was a very odd situation. So we don't have a verified measurement. He says he's going to be at the combine, but there's a lot of questions about what happened there. If it was an injury, if it was like an agent thing told him to not do it for some reason. Don't really know what the story behind that is. He's known for having extremely long arms, 32-inch plus. So, again, big, tall, 6'2", 202, really long arms. Just a fun safety to watch for sure. Emmanuel McNeil Warren's path to the NFL is one of the most compelling underdog stories in the entire draft class. Starts with a family story that hits different. Born in Tampa, Florida, raised primarily by his mother, Sharona McNeil, single parent supporting Emmanuel and 8 siblings, 4 brothers, 4 sisters. Before high school, Emmanuel moved to St. Petersburg, Florida to live with his father, Terrace Horn, who was an assistant coach at Lakewood High School. The decision was about 2 things, strengthening their relationship and advancing his football career. His father eventually became his offensive coordinator at Lakewood. McNeil Warren calls his father a role model. He's also a first-generation college student, the first member in his family to attend college. That alone is a significant achievement from a recruiting standpoint. He was a 3-star recruit, rated 1,357th overall nationally. He had offers from Indiana, Kansas State, Miami, and a handful of others, but Toledo was his first offer, and that loyalty mattered, which is a big deal. I mean, those are much bigger programs, and he decided to go to Toledo because they offered first. That's very cool. He committed to Toledo and never looked back. The loyalty became arguably the most important part of his pre-draft narrative. He's one of the most physically imposing safeties in the 2026 class, and he's not from Alabama, Ohio State, or Oregon. He's from Toledo in the MAC, and he didn't leave. He has the kind of length and frame that makes NFL evaluators do a double take. Still Curtin described him perfectly. Looks like a 2000s safety. He's a throwback, a violent, tone-setting enforcer who punches at the football on every single tackle, with the physical dimensions of a linebacker and the coverage instincts of a defensive back. Multiple evaluators describe him as extremely violent and a player who makes his presence known to the ball carrier. He's going to the Lions, isn't he? Somehow he's going to end up being a Lion, and he's going to rack up a bunch of fines. His career production's outstanding across 4 years, 214 tackles, 11 tackles for a loss, 5 interceptions, 13 pass deflections, staggering 9 forced fumbles. Some sources list 11, PFF being one of them. The forced fumble number is the headline stat. 9 career forced fumbles is almost unheard of for a safety. When McNeil Warren tackles you, the ball is in danger every single time. He told the Draft Network, "When I see the ball, I always feel like I can get it out of there and force a turnover." 2025 honors were historic for Toledo. He became just the second Rocket to land on the AP All-American team in 18 years, joining Quinion Mitchell, the Philadelphia Eagles' first-round pick in 2024. He was a Jim Thorpe Award semifinalist, the first Toledo DB recognized since Barry Church in 2009, and the first MAC DB since Northern Illinois' Sean Lurie in 2015. PFF named him their Group of 5 Defensive Player of the Year. And through all this, the All-American recognition, the NFL buzz, the rising draft stock, McNeil Warren turned down big NIL deals to transfer and stayed at Toledo because he considered the program family. In an era where every productive Group of 5 player bolts for the FCC school and a big bag, McNeil Warren stayed put. That's not just character indicator, it's franchise culture indicator. NFL teams will love that. Talking about Quinion Mitchell, who is a former teammate of his, he told the Draft Network, "Being a young guy who was trying to find his way, I learned a lot from watching Quinion Mitchell. Maxon Hook was another guy. All those older players in front of us, they set an example." On Mitchell specifically, he said, "I saw the hard work and dedication that went into that. Quinion Mitchell came in early, was the last one to leave. He stayed after practice to get extra work. His hard work paid off in the end. It taught me to stay dedicated and humble." NFL Draft Buzz summed up the evaluation perfectly, saying, "McNeil Warren's NFL future hinges on one thing: finding a defensive coordinator who understands exactly what he is and, just as importantly, what he is not. He is not a single high free safety and you leave on an island 35 yards off the ball and trust to range to both sidelines. What he is, though, is a 6'2", 202-pound enforcer with legitimate coverage instincts, 9 career forced fumbles, and the kind of length that makes him a nightmare matchup for tight ends working the seam and big slot receivers trying to occupy the middle of the field." Some injury issues here. 2021 in high school, suffered a concussion and elbow injury that caused him to miss a chunk of his senior season at Lakewood, including the first 3 games. In 2024 at Toledo, he missed the final 5 games of the season with a shoulder injury. Was on pace for a career year. 2025 battled a leg strain leading up to the Boca Raton Bowl, played through it, but missed a handful of series during the bowl game. So quite a bit of things have popped up over the years. No character issues. Obviously, it's all green flag stuff. First-generation college student turned down NIL, called coachable by past coaches, all that stuff. The only thing, again, is the whole withdrawal from the Senior Bowl. Was arguably the top safety that accepted an invitation per NFL Draft Countdown, but backed out before the event. Reasons are unclear. This may raise some eyebrows with teams who wanted to see him compete against top prospects in Mobile. He is a combine invitee, so there will be a chance to evaluate him again against NFL caliber athletes. His stock has climbed steadily through the 2025 season and into the pre-draft process, and now firmly sits in the late round 1, early round 2 conversation. The combine will be a big swing event. If he runs a sub 4.5 at 210 and shows fluid hips and drills, he's a lock for round 1. If he tests in the 4.55 range and looks stiff, he settles into the early to mid round 2 range. The Senior Bowl withdrawal is a slight negative. Scouts wanted to see him against elite competition, but the combine will provide that opportunity. All right, finally, Mr. Caleb Downs, safety out of Ohio State. Looking at PFF, Caleb Downs, first of all, 6'2", 205, completely consistently dominant. I mean, a lot of guys have good grades, but this is like unflinching. His grades, 86, 88, and 88. Run defense grades, 79, 86, 84. Tackling grades, 80, 81, 78. And coverage grades, 89, 85, and 90. He has played 1,363 coverage snaps. He has given up 812 yards, 2 touchdowns, none in the last 2 years, 0 at Ohio State, 2 at Alabama in his first year, 6 interceptions, 7 pass breakups, 68.8 passer rating when targeted, just 4 penalties in that span. Looking at the profile, starts off in a very eloquent way. Caleb Downs didn't just arrive at college football, he was born into it. This is NFL royalty. His father, Gary Downs, was an NFL running back who spent time with the New York Giants, Denver Broncos, and Atlanta Falcons after being a third-round pick out of NC State in '94. His uncle, Dre Bly, I don't know if you heard of him, was a 2-time Pro Bowl cornerback who won the Super Bowl with the St. Louis Rams. His second-round pick out of North Carolina in '99, who played 11 NFL seasons. His older brother is Josh Downs, who is currently a wide receiver with the Indianapolis Colts. The brothers co-host a podcast called Downs to Business. I didn't even know any of that. He grew up in Hoshton, Georgia, deep in the heart of SEC country, became the most dominant high school football player in the state of Mill Creek while at Mill Creek High School under head coach Josh Lovelady. That's a name. Played offense, he played defense, he played everything. Led Mill Creek to a 14-1 record, first ever state title. Played basketball, played baseball, member of the National Honor Society, Max Preps National Play of the Year 2022, Georgia Gatorade Player of the Year 2022, USA Today Defensive High School Football Player of the Year, All-American Bowl Player of the Year, named the top high school senior in the nation. 5-star recruit by every major service, number 1 safety nationally by all major outlets, number 6 overall recruit nationally, unanimous number 1 player in Georgia, highest rated defensive recruit in Alabama history upon his commitment. Originally committed to Alabama July 22nd over Ohio State, Georgia, Notre Dame, North Carolina, where his brother played. He said, "It's hard to explain. It was a strong gut feeling that told me Alabama. In my mind, the same team just kept showing up, and it was Alabama. When he committed, he laid out his goals explicitly. I want to be a Thorpe Award winner, I want to be a national champion, and I want to be a first-round draft pick. He has since accomplished all 3. Soon to be, anyways. Best safety prospect in the draft, full stop. There's a growing argument he might be the best overall player in the entire class, regardless of position." Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated put it plainly. "I feel comfortable saying, dude, bro." I'm so sorry. My eyes are just not seeing anymore. Albert Breer said, "I feel comfortable saying Caleb Downs is the best football player in the 2026 draft class." PFSN's Jacob Infante said, "As of this writing, Caleb Downs is my top overall prospect in the 2026 NFL draft." Third Down Thursdays said this is the most don't overthink it guy in the class. Last Word on NFL said despite being just a safety, Downs is the surest prospect in this year's draft class. Couple different things over his 3 years. 2023, while at Alabama as a true freshman, became the first freshman in Alabama history to lead the team in tackles with 107. Led the SEC with 70 solo tackles, earned SEC Freshman of the Year, first team All-SEC, second team All-American. Returned a punt 85 yards for a touchdown. Did all this at 18 years old in the SEC under Nick Saban. This guy is unbelievable. 2024 at Ohio State as a sophomore. After Saban retired, Downs entered the transfer portal and committed to Ohio State within 48 hours. He immediately became the anchor of the Buckeyes defense, posting 82 tackles, 7.5 tackles for a loss, 2 interceptions, including the game-sealing interception in the Cotton Bowl against Texas that sent Ohio State to the national championship. Also added 6 pass deflections. Earned consensus All-American and Big Ten Defensive Back of the Year. Ohio State won the CFP National Championship. Added a 79-yard punt return touchdown. 2025 at Ohio State as a junior, his numbers dipped slightly in tackles, but his impact was arguably greater. Won the Jim Thorpe Award as the nation's best defensive back, the goal he stated upon committing to Alabama 3 years earlier. Won the Ronnie Lott Trophy and Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. Finished 9th in Heisman Trophy voting as a safety. Forced 2 fumbles, picked off 2 more passes, and earned consensus All-American for the second straight year. His career PFF grade of 93.6 is elite. What separates Downs from every other safety in the class, and from most safety prospects in recent draft history, is the combination of his intelligence, versatility, and production at the highest level of competition. He wasn't a max standout or a one-year wonder. He was a 3-year starter at Alabama and Ohio State, performing at an All-American level every single season, winning a national championship, and collecting virtually every defensive award available. His snap alignment tells us the versatility story. Playing time split roughly even between high safety and box duties, with slot snaps roughly 2/3 as high as those. Ohio State used him everywhere: deep safety, robber, box, slot corner, and even as a blitzer. Fantasy pros described him as a versatile defensive back whose playing time has been split evenly between high and box duties. Cowboys scouting report said he can play deep in the middle of the field and keep big plays from happening, but can also move down closer to the line of scrimmage to help stop the run, cover tight ends, or blitz. The only question isn't whether he's good enough, it's whether the NFL will value a safety high enough to take him where his talent says he belongs. Some injury stuff, pretty clean. Dealt with a minor injury in 2025 during spring practice before the 2025 season. Never missed any time. 2024 played all 16 games, no reported injuries. 2023 played all 14 games, no reported injuries. High school, no significant injuries. 44 consecutive college games played, 0 missed to injury. That's wild. Red flags, absolutely none. Again, we can go through all the accolades, but it's all positive and none of it is negative. Consensus top 10 prospect. Argument he should be the first non-quarterback taken. The only debate is exactly where he lands. Consensus has him between 5 and 12 overall. Talent says top 5. Positional value question says 8 to 12. History, Brian Branch at 45, Starks at 20, Kyle Hamilton at 14, suggests safeties slip, but Downs' profile, the awards, the championship, the Heisman vote, may override that gravity. He's the most decorated safety prospect since Eric Berry, who went number 5 overall in 2010. Combine will confirm, not create, his stock, unlike other safeties in the class who need the combine to climb. Downs just needs to not disappoint. Pro comp, there's a lot of different ones here. NFL Draft Buzz went with Derwin James. Third Down Thursdays went with Brian Branch. We got Eric Weddle, Eric Berry, Kyle Hamilton, Budda Baker. Kind of runs the gamut here. Kind of makes sense. I mean, if he's a do-everything safety, you can kind of see everyone in him. Kind of just pick your favorite traits and go find a safety. So it'll be fun to kind of track this and see where he ends up going, see which team ends up pulling the trigger. I have a feeling it'll be relatively early. There's going to be teams up there that are going to want wins. I mean, that's something else to consider. You know, we look at the logic of it and, the cost and all that kind of stuff. Everybody picking at the top is a bunch of GMs trying not to lose their job. You know what I mean? And if you swing and get a big hit, salary cap be damned. I don't care, as opposed to like the third pass rusher at that point in time, when this guy's probably better than all of the pass rushers, as far as just being a better football player. So somebody will take a swing at him. Anywho, I'm going to get out of here. I will talk to you all later. Again, tomorrow we'll see what we can do when it comes to special team stuff. But any questions, comments, and or concerns, 608-561-3243. Get your calls in. I got to remember to put that number in the description as well, so you can have that on hand. Otherwise, I will talk to you all later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.